Japan Station is made possible in part by Patreon support. If you would like to make sure that I can keep bringing you more content like this, then head on over to japankyo.com/Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Japan Station.
Welcome to Japan Station, a production of japankyo.com. This is the podcast where we help you understand everything you should know about Japan. I'm your host, content creator, founder of japankyo.com, and lifelong Japan enthusiast, Tony R. Vega. Today I've got another bonus episode for you, and this is yet another episode of my Patreon exclusive podcast, Japanese Plus Alpha. So I was producing this podcast for my $3 a month plus alpha tier supporters over on Patreon. I'm not producing it right now, but I did produce quite a few episodes of this show, so I've been releasing them slowly here on the public feed. If you want even more, you can join the Plus Alpha tier. Go check it out. It's there. They're all there. You gotta scroll a bit, but they are there. And in every episode, I go deep into some aspect of the Japanese language. Usually they are topics that I think would appeal to just about anybody that has like even a remote interest in language in general. I try not to get too caught up in grammar and that kind of stuff. So I do a lot of like etymology, like digging into the history of a specific Japanese word. And this one is no exception. In this one, I go into the history of the Japanese slang term Gyarandu. And I'm not going to explain what that is because that's what the entire episode is about. So I don't want to spoil it. It's a really interesting word. I will say just one thing. I don't think this word is that commonly used these days. I would be surprised if anybody born after, let's say, 2000 to 2005 uses this word, but I'm also not interacting with people in that age range regularly. And also, as you'll see, what this word means really restricts my ability to find out how commonly this is used. So I think that people on the younger end of the age spectrum probably don't use this word that much, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of them don't even know what this word is. But I would say anybody born like, let's say 1990 or earlier is probably aware of this word. Now, whether they actually use it or it's considered just too out of date, I'm not sure. But the story behind this word is really interesting for multiple reasons. But anyway, I won't keep on going here. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Gyarandu. From japankyo.com, this is Japanese Plus Alpha, a podcast about the Japanese language, its various quirks, and whatever other random stuff I can think of. I'm Tony Vega, and today we're doing something a little bit different from episodes 1 and 2, where we talked about some very, very old words. Today, we're talking about a word that is much, much newer. And when you're talking about a much newer word, there's a much higher chance that you can actually get to the bottom of the mystery, so to speak, and actually figure out where exactly this word started being used, who started it, and how it took on the meaning that it has today. So, the word that we're talking about today is Gyarandu.
Gyarandu.
So what the heck does Gyarandu mean? It's a pretty interesting word, and if you know what it means, then you might be laughing that I'm even bothering to talk about such a strange little word. But if you don't know what it means, well, here you go. I'm going to teach you what it means. So you know how some people have hair like under their belly button, kind of over the area where their waistline ends, right? It kind of connects the pubic hair to the belly button. Well, in Japanese, that is called Gyarandu. And yes, people do still use that word, although I would say that you don't hear it that often because, well, when the heck are you talking about people's Gyarandus in the first place, right? But people do generally understand it, and given the right context, people still do use it. I can't say that teenagers use it for sure. Maybe it's falling out of favor in that age range, but I just don't know. So I'm just purely speculating on that regard. So in English, we call this very specific area of hair the happy trail sometimes, or I've heard the treasure trail used to describe this patch of hair. There's probably other interesting slangy terms for it, but like I said, in Japanese, it's called Gyarandu. So the story of Gyarandu begins in 1983 with a very well-known male singer called Saijo Hideki. So Saijo Hideki made his professional debut as a singer, as a musician, in 1972, and he passed away in 2018. And he had a very prolific career. He had well over 80 singles and multiple albums and numerous hit songs that are remembered to this day. And I would say that the most popular and well-known and in a way influential song that he ever released was his 1979 cover of the 1970s American disco classic sung by the Village People, YMCA. Saijo Hideki's version was called Young Man YMCA, and although it sounds pretty much exactly the same in terms of the melody and overall structure of the song, the content of the lyrics are quite different from the original English. The Japanese song is meant as this kind of inspirational and encouraging song for the young men of Japan, I guess, to turn them into young go-getters or something like that. It's rather interesting. I recommend you go check that out, but I digress. So in 1983, Saijo Hideki released a song called Gyarandu. And here we go. Here's Gyarandu, right? But it did not mean that patch of hair under the belly button that connects to the pubic hair. Not at all. It had a very different meaning. So Gyarandu started its life as just nonsense, gibberish sounds that were supposed to vaguely sound like English. And the man that created this bunch of syllables is named Monda Yoshinori. And apparently, Monda Yoshinori was known for using just kind of gibberish English to fill in lyrics for the songs that he was writing. And one of the gibberish English-ish sounding words that he used was Gyarandu. So I guess when he was writing Gyarandu, he just liked the sound of Gyarandu so much that he decided to just keep it in the final song and in the chorus, right? So it's really, really noticeable. So in one of the things that I was reading, I saw that apparently people in Japan actually were calling Saijo Hideki's talent agency to find out what the heck this word means, because it's never made clear in the lyrics of the song. And by the way, the song is about a very alluring, attractive woman, which ended up being the explanation for what Gyarandu means. So the explanation offered is that Gyarandu means miryokuteki na josei or something along those lines, and miryokuteki means fascinating. So basically, like I said, an alluring, a fascinating, interesting, sexy, maybe even woman, right? And we can actually find some evidence of this in that I found a video clip of a TV appearance of Saijo Hideki that probably dates back to not long after the song was released, because the announcer host that introduces Saijo Hideki, who is about to perform Gyarandu, actually explains what Gyarandu means. She says it means suteki na josei. Suteki na josei basically means a lovely woman, a nice woman, or something along the lines of the print explanations that I was able to find. Those are the ones that I explained earlier, like miryokuteki na josei, a fascinating or alluring woman. So not exactly the same, but pretty similar. Interestingly, though, I was able to find another explanation that predates probably every single other explanation that I was able to find, and it dates back to 1982. So if you remember, Gyarandu came out in 1983, February to be specific, but Saijo Hideki was already performing the song as early as December of 1982. And I just happened to stumble across a clip in which Saijo Hideki performs this on a TV show at the end of December in 1982. And it seems like this song is brand new at the time. The host gives a rather detailed explanation of what Gyarandu means because nobody has any clue what that word means. And it's a really, really just interesting, confusing, convoluted, complicated explanation. I will include the clip of the audio at the end of this episode in case you speak Japanese and you want to hear what the heck it is. But I will just very roughly translate it as a woman that is in touch with the pure essence of the city and is able to live with the city. She is a student or office worker by day, and in the evening she is a girl, but a healthy disco girl. And she's also a woman that is suited to the night time in the city. So you see what I mean there, right? By complicated and convoluted. It's like, what the heck are you even trying to say? But basically, it seems like Gyarandu, or at least the explanation that Monda Yoshinori is giving, is that Gyarandu is this perfect encapsulation of 1980s city life in Tokyo, and it describes this woman that is in tune with the city and is able to manage her life with every aspect of the city, from her personal life in work and school, but also at the disco. So anyway, yeah, that is maybe the earliest meaning that is offered for this original version of Gyarandu. So how did the word go from that to that patch of hair under your belly button? Well, here we have to introduce another character into the story. And that person is Matsutoya Yumi, or as she's often called in Japan, Yumin. So Matsutoya Yumi is a very, very well-known, respected, influential, prolific singer, songwriter. She's put out tons and tons of really well-known songs, but in the West, I think she's best known as the singer of Hikoki Gumo, which is the ending theme of the 2013 Studio Ghibli film Kaze Tachinu, which in English is usually called The Wind is Rising. So remember, Matsutoya Yumi, we're about to get back to her in just a moment, but first, let's talk about idols in swimsuits. So in the 1980s in Japan, there were these TV shows where they would have Japanese pop idols, male and female, put on swimsuits, go in pools, and compete with each other in swimming competitions. There were multiple episodes of this. I don't know how many in total, but this seems to have gone on for a few years. And remember, Saijo Hideki is this very popular male pop idol singer in the 1980s. So yes, he did appear on these swimming competition shows, along with many other very, very well-known singers that are remembered to this day, like Go Hiromi, and even the female pop idol, perhaps one of the most well-known and popular and influential female idols of all time in Japan, Matsuda Seiko. I actually found a clip where I saw Matsuda Seiko and Saijo Hideki on this show. So Saijo Hideki is on this show, and I don't know exactly when the clip that I saw dates back to, right? But I'm pretty sure it was at some point in the 80s. And in this clip, you can see Saijo Hideki wearing nothing more than just those Speedo-style swim trunks, right? Just tiny, tiny briefs. And here's a little side note for you. Here's an extra Japanese word for you. One word for these Speedo-style briefs in Japanese is boomerang. As in, like that thing you throw and it comes back. But yeah, they actually have a very interesting slangy term for these Speedos, and they're called boomerang. And I'm not 100% sure how commonly this is still used to this day. I think the term might sound a little bit old. But here's another little side note. Saijo Hideki does have a song called Boomerang. Which does not have anything to do with the Speedos. Actually, it's just a funny little coincidence here. But anyway, so Saijo Hideki is on this show, and he's wearing nothing more than these tiny briefs. And when you look at his abdomen area, you see that he has a very noticeable happy trail, aka Gyarandu. You can see it going up to his belly button. And being that this was a popular show, many people across Japan were watching this and seeing that. And one of the people watching Saijo Hideki's Gyarandu was Matsutoya Yumi, remember the singer that we were just talking about. So in 1988, she begins to host her own radio show called Matsutoya Yumi no All Night Nippon. And that means Matsutoya Yumi's All Night Japan. It was a late night radio show, and I particularly enjoy late night radio shows. They're usually hosted by comedians, sometimes by musicians, and they tend to talk pretty freely and say some pretty crazy, funny, silly things. So I recommend them if you're interested in that sort of crazier side of humor, more perhaps sincere and sometimes risque humor. But anyway, so she's hosting this radio show, and I think it happened on this show. Everything I read seems to point in that direction, but I can't say with 100% certainty. This may have happened when she was on another radio show earlier in the 80s. Maybe she was a regular guest on some other show. I don't know for sure when the exact moment that this happened was, but again, probably 88, 89. So Matsutoya Yumi sees Saijo Hideki's Gyarandu, and she begins to talk about it on the radio. Okay. And it seems that at first she was using the term Gyarandu to refer to a person with a lot of hair. But little by little, whether it was exactly her usage that evolved or people that were listening to this on the radio and then they began to use the word, I'm not sure which it was. It probably was a little bit of both, but eventually the word came to mean that patch of hair under the belly button. And even to this day, when you look up Gyarandu, I've seen a few instances in which it says like a hairy person is the definition, right? And that is just one definition. It also says the patch under the belly button, the hair, that thing, right? So sometimes you'll get both definitions, but in my experience, usually when people use it, it's to refer to that patch of hair under the belly button. So that seems to have become the more dominant definition. Anyway, so Matsutoya Yumi begins to use this on the radio, and eventually she even has Saijo Hideki on the radio, and they seem to talk about it. They have something called a Gyarandu Taikai, which is a Gyarandu competition. I don't know exactly what that entails. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any clips or any detailed descriptions of what that entailed, but it seems that Saijo Hideki was totally fine with this. He had a really good sense of humor about it, and you can find pictures of Saijo Hideki with his shirt off in other instances, and you can see it. It seems that he was totally fine with having that Gyarandu there. And in at least one instance, I was able to find a quote of Saijo Hideki actually crediting Matsutoya Yumi with this extra meaning being added onto the term Gyarandu, right? He actually seems to have been totally fine with giving her the credit for it. He totally acknowledges that she is the person that started this. So there you go. That is Gyarandu. And one interesting little side note that I couldn't help but think about when I was researching this and thinking about it. Did Japan have a term for this patch of hair before Gyarandu? I actually asked some Japanese people, and I wrote a Japanese language blog post on a Japanese language blog that I used to post on regularly, but I don't do that anymore, or very, very rarely. Anyway, I asked them, hey, did samurai or like people from a long time ago have a very specific word for this and not just some very descriptive term like the hair under your belly button? And the answer I got from one guy was, no, it seems like Gyarandu was like an original word that came about to describe that. And there wasn't a very, very specific sort of slangy or interesting or fun word like Gyarandu before that. For example, that person, I think, mentioned the term harage, which hara is like abdomen or stomach, and ge is ke, which is hair. So it's, again, very descriptive, very literal, right? Not fun or interesting in any way like Gyarandu. So, yeah, it seems that here, I'm just going to speculate here that because people used to wear like the kimono and the obi and the hakama, you just didn't get as many opportunities to see anybody's Gyarandu in the first place. So you didn't need some special word for that. But then again, I mean, happy trail and treasure trail do seem like they're fairly recent words. So even in a culture that wore pants for a very, very long time, there doesn't seem to have been a very specific, fun, interesting, slangy term for that part of hair. And if there was, then please let me know. Send an email. So there you go. Next time you run into your Japanese friend, even if they're showing their belly button or not, or you're at the pool or you're at the beach with them, just say, Gyarandu deteru yo. That basically means your Gyarandu is showing. Yeah, your Gyarandu. And that will probably confuse them, especially if they're wearing like a winter jacket or something. But you'll get a smile or laugh out of them, I think. They'll probably be wondering, why do you know that word? So give it a shot. I think you'll have fun. But yeah, that does it for this episode. Thank you for listening, and see you next time on Japanese Plus Alpha.
今日の歌はね、ギャランドゥって言うんですよ。
ギャランドってどういう意味なんですか？
要するにね、ピュアなシティ感性でシティと一緒に暮らしている女って。わからないでしょ。昼間一般の普通の学生 OL、夕方お嬢さん、夜ディスコにいても健康的な、しかも夜の似合う女性ということなんですよ。
なるほど。
そういうわけでございますけれども、歌を聴けば一目瞭然だと思います。
明るい歌でございます。
ギャランドゥです。
どうぞ。
Hey, here's a little bonus. So what I'm going to start doing is in the future, at some point, I'm probably going to release this episode and maybe all episodes of Japanese Plus Alpha. I haven't completely decided yet, but this is not going to be for many, many months. And whatever happens here on Patreon, you're always going to have first access to these episodes. But my point here is that I'm going to be trying to add on a little extra something to the end of these episodes. Whatever that may be something just funny or a little extra bit of information that I didn't fit into the main episode. So here's one little bit of extra information. So Gyarandu, right? Apparently the idea for this word, and I think this is a little bit of a retcon on Mondai Yoshinori's part, but who knows? Apparently, Gyarandu is supposed to come from the phrase gal and do, as in gal like guys and gals, like girl. And in Japanese, there's the word gyaru, right? Which has been around for quite some time, probably into the 80s. In that clip that you hear early in the episode, that you have the host saying something about sticky na jose, right? There, you actually do hear that gyaru. This is kind of like a replacement for gyaru, right? Gyarandu. So gyaru was around at that point, although the meaning of the word may have evolved a little bit. But anyway, gal and as in like you and me, and then do as in to do something. But I've also seen the explanation that it was from gal and do, like as in an ampersand, and then gal undu, I guess as in French. So then these phrases got shortened into Gyarandu, right? And regardless of whether that's true and the idea was that it came from Gyarandu and then he shortened it into Gyarandu, or he just added it after the fact, none of it makes sense. It's all just nonsense, vaguely English sounding words. And going back once again to that introduction that I included earlier with the sticky na jose, she actually, the host, introduces Gyarandu as an English word. But no, it's not English. This is just some made up nonsense word. So, sorry, I don't think this really helps much at all, but it is just funny and amusing. So,悔しいけれどお前に夢中 Gyarandu Go check out the song. I have included a video in the accompanying notes, description, show notes, whatever you want to call them. Go check out the song. It's a fun song. I enjoy the song very much. I have a soft spot for that kind of cheesy 80s Japanese pop songs, and so yeah, go check it out. All right, done. See you next time.